Hello, Brigid. It's great to speak to you because I've been following your website. You're from Brightfire.
That's right. Hi, Julian.
Hello. And you're when you say autistically led,
Yes.
I put that in my head with a few autistic people giving a little bit of direction, and then there's another group of people who are really controlling it.
No.
Right.
So, yeah, this is the way. So autistic led is like really initiated by and run and developed. Well, really, initially by myself. I started Brightfire with an autistic colleague. There's a lot of organisations historically out there that have been going for an awful long time and have as you say, a sort of cursory nod to involving autistic people in what they do, supporting autistic people. And really what Brightfire really was about is doing it from the inside. So it's autistic services for autistic people by autistic people.
You're the genuine deal.
Yeah.
Wonderful. We need a phrase, autism washing or something like that, you know, as you've got greenwashing. And
Exactly. No, it's really evident. Somebody said a really good phrase. I talked about this on the internet in a group I'm in once, and we were talking about that very thing, you know, changing the logos is not enough. And she used the phrase, yeah, it's like a pig in lipstick. That sounds awful, doesn't it? I thought it was a really good phrase. Nothing against pigs. But it's just that idea that, yeah, there's a facade there of neurodiversity affirming practice, but actually it's got to come from a much deeper place, really.
Well, we've got to step up, haven't we?
Yeah. No, I was just going to say we have got to step up, but it's also realising and understanding that we might not do things in the same way as non-autistic folk or non-neurodivergent folk, because I want Brightfire to be an inclusive place for neurodivergence. It's just that I'm specifically autistic. But actually, I've run businesses in the past and I've burnt out. And it is about kind of understanding, you know, we might have to run things differently. We might need to be kinder on ourselves. You know, it's not all about business and money. It's about, you know, providing community, creating community. So we're in that weird space between not being a commercial business, but not being a charity. So we're in that community interest company space, and there's a balance there, really. And I think it's sort of the community bit of it is really, really important. So building that around what we're doing. And we're very young. It's only like 2 years in. And so we're still kind of creating that community and building those links with autistic folk to kind of bring their expertise and knowledge and understanding and experience into what we do as well, by setting up a kind of not just co-production but sort of integral kind of community, really.
Okay, you've made that really clear.
Yeah.
You're the genuine deal. It's autistic people doing it for themselves.
Yeah.
Okay.
Can I say who I've really been inspired by?
Go.
So I was, a couple of years ago, listening to Damien Milton was doing his research conference. So I was listening to this research conference that happens every year, and it's really hosting autistic researchers doing research. And it's excellent to hear what different projects people are doing. And there was the keynote speaker for that year was Max Sparrow, who's based in America. And they were really talking about how nothing's going to really change until, in their view, at least 50% of people working in services for autistic people are autistic. And I was like, yes, that's absolutely right. You know, the culture isn't really going to shift. The way that we're doing things isn't really going to shift. So I think it's great to be working, you know, in diverse teams where all brains are welcome and we're kind of working alongside people neurotypical people of various flavours of neurodivergence. But actually, I thought it was a really important point, that you need to have that shift happening.
We need to be in there in the organisations.
Yeah. But it also is really hard for us to fit into organisations that aren't set up for us and have certain expectations. And I'm an older autistic person now, and I don't have as much energy as I once did. And I realise that I need the autonomy to be able to run things in a way which works for me as well. And it's very hard. Yeah, it's very hard to be an autistic person and then slot into an existing framework or existing organisation or business that isn't set up for you. Yeah.
What you're saying there, as we grow older, even if we have been autistic people who have worked in industry, worked in business, previously you've had a more conventional career before realising that your identity is autistic. And then you say that as we're maturing and we're getting older, closer to retirement, you need the autonomy to be able to regulate your own world.
Yeah.
Yeah, because energy levels are lower. And I've had the same experience myself, but I decided to retire. I'm in my 50s and I've passed my business on to somebody else.
So, yes, I'm going to say that I don't think it's exclusively older people, but in my own experience as somebody who's now in their 50s as well, I did work I had an interesting career. I worked in television as a documentary filmmaker.
Okay.
And that was initially led by my passion for making documentaries about subjects that I was interested in. So it was special interest led, and I could research and deep delve into subjects and then make films about them. And often they were sort of social justice issues, and sometimes they were just subjects I was fascinated in. So I did quite a lot of history as well, ancient history. But I think that I also see it in clients that I work with. So I've switched from that. I actually had a massive sort of extreme burnout at 38, a year of pretty much zero functioning compared to where I was at. And then it's been a really, really long, slow build via doing various other various low demand things to try and kind of get to the point where I am now in my sort of early 50s. But I think that it's also not exclusively something, I'm now retrained as an art psychotherapist. I had a real period of my own burnout and mental health issues. And I think that retraining has been really good for my mental health. And I'm able to bring my experience as a mental health professional and autistic person to the work that I do. But I see things similar in people in their 20s, actually, that have come out of, maybe they've been through the school system and then they've, been trying to find their way in the world, and then they hit burnout. And it's a recovery period for them. So, yeah, for me, it hit me 38, and then I had to really rethink and redesign my life. So redesigning my life with the knowledge that I'm autistic is something that I talk to autistic people that I support a lot about. So how do we redesign our lives with that new understanding?
I like that phrase. How do we redesigning our lives with the knowledge that we're autistic?
Yeah. Because until we know or we understand ourselves, we just keep doing things the way that society tells us to, or that our families or our friends or our educators or everybody else expects us to. And it actually sometimes takes us a breakdown or a burnout or a crisis of some sort. Maybe it's physical health, maybe it's mental health, that actually allows us to kind of look at things in a different way and step out of that expectation. Our bodies and our brains sometimes do the stopping for us, and we don't have a choice. We
need people to make these choices to stop and stand back and step back from things and realise about their own autism before they burn out, don't we?
Exactly. And I think too often I see people after they've hit that point. So I suppose that's some of the work I do. So some of it is supporting people one-to-one through an NHS post-diagnosis support service in Herefordshire. And often there are people that have hit a point of burnout or crisis and are very late diagnosed often. So that's one sort of area that I sort of encounter lots of autistic people that are in that experience. But the other work is more preventative, and that is a work that I'm doing at a project called Being Autistic, and that's running with a charity in Herefordshire called the Cart Shed. And they have been extremely progressive and really just embraced all of the things that I've suggested to them, working with taking the sort of Brightfire ethos to their charity, which has been running for 16 years already.
So you're finding open doors?
It's an open door, and it's been really refreshing. So they've been running a mental health charity in the woods for about 16 or so years.
In the woods?
In the woods, and it's awesome. So the idea is there that they have sites where they do green woodworking and do sort of willow weaving. Traditionally, this is what they've always done. And they've been a place for rehabilitation for people. So sometimes that's people that are, just need a space outside of their normal lives to recuperate. It's something that people come to for a day. So they come there for a day. There's sort of peer connections are made. There are support professionals there working in mental health and occupational therapy. There are experts in various woodland crafts, and they work alongside people. And sometimes they're ex-veterans, people that are in sort of recovery from mental health issues, also young people that aren't managing in education environments, people that have historical addiction issues, all sorts of differences. And they had noticed that they had, a lot of autistic people coming through. And I sat down with them one day and sort of suggested, well, why don't we do a project exclusively for autistic people? Mm. We've been running it over a year now. We've had a lot of people through, and we support people in that environment. So it's very exciting. You've probably seen on my Facebook, we work exclusively outside around a fire. So it's about sort of connecting in a very sort of ancient way, really. Outside in the woods, we have a robin that just pops along to the group to say hello every week, and we just sort of enjoy being in a different sort of space, really.
Okay. So the external natural environment is powerful.
Really is, yeah. Mm.
It's forest bathing, isn't it?
It's forest bathing. But there's a really important, Brightfire is called Brightfire, for my own reasons. But the fact that we meet around a fire every day, and the first thing I do when I get on site is light the fire, is actually really important as well, because it's like a focal point. It's a place that we can sort of gather. And then we sort of leave the fire during the day to go out into the woods and to, sometimes we do various things like collecting things in nature that we then use to create artworks or inspire us to create artworks. But actually just noticing, using our sensory input, being in that environment where we can really sort of soak it up, whether it's the sounds or the smells or the textures or the, lying on the damp grass or whatever it happens to be, just really having that space in nature. It's just such an important thing, I think, for everybody. But I wonder, more particularly for autistic people, that we really do benefit from that.
It's something about us, isn't it? There's something about our natures that is ancient. Yeah. There's something about our natures that often doesn't fit the new modern world where nature has been suppressed. Yeah. And it seems to me sometimes that it's the recent changes and adaptations that has made autistic people proportionately more uncomfortable than the general population.
Mm. Yeah. Yeah.
And what you're trying to do is you're trying to reconnect?
We are. And I think, statement that I often use in relation to so many aspects of our lives is Luke Bearden's quote, "Autism plus environment equals outcome." And I did a training with Luke a year ago, his postgrad certificate in autism at Sheffield Hallam Uni.
Yep.
And I think that actually the environment, it wouldn't be the same project if we did it anywhere else. We've just got a yurt on site as well, so that we've got a sort of safe space that's also a circular space that we can sit together. And, it gives us a space to kind of drop down into, not saying that people aren't sometimes anxious, but that it kind of can give us a space to kind of breathe. We've got the quiet, we've got the, just the sounds and the smells and the calm of the green and I think it's a good starting point to actually create connection with each other. So
the yurt becomes a container if the world is too big.
Yeah, and I think that the group is a variety of, the most important thing is the peer connections and the trust and the creating a space for people to practice being authentic. So we're all autistic. We sometimes have other members of staff there. Well, we do actually have, for example, we have an artist support, and we've had a wonderful lady called Carly Day, who's been an occupational therapist with lived experience, but who's been supporting us as an occupational therapist for the last year. But I think that it's creating safe space, really. It's creating community and safe space. And we do creative things together. So we might have a real deep conversation about something that affects all of us. And then we can go out into the woods and let some of that kind of breathing out happen. And then in the afternoons, we might be creating, we might be making artwork, we might be using that, art making expressively.
There's a lot more going on here than simple art therapy.
Oh, yes.
It's a much more holistic experience that you're creating.
It absolutely is, yeah.
People can take parts of this away into not everybody has this, what is sounding to me a rather wonderful setup, a rare setup.
Yes, it is.
And maybe it's a model that people will hope to emulate. Mm. But in some ways, there's a limit to how that's going to work in our modern world and how often that's going to be available to people. What are the pieces that people can take away from it and use in their own lives?
Well, I think clearly that making space for your connection, with nature, but also making space. And I know we can't all do that in a way. We might be living in environments where it's difficult for us to get out of our house or get out to a park or get out to the beach or something. And actually, I do work with people that can't leave their houses at all because life out there is too challenging. Mm. And even bringing a little bit of nature into your home, so creating a little indoor garden or creating a little nature space for yourself, or a lot of the materials that I use for stimming and encourage other people to are natural. So the seed I've got in my hand, or natural things that you found in nature, stones. Oh my goodness, how many stones have I got? And I know a lot of other autistic people do the same. Finding things that you can connect with that are natural, then bringing that into your home if you can't get out. Using nature sounds. So I use some wonderful apps on my phone. It's not the same as being in the forest, but you can bring that to yourself in other ways. I think the other most important thing is finding ways to connect with other autistic people. And I think that's how we get sometimes validation and acceptance and understanding of ourselves, is when we start to understand others that are also autistic.
We're generally isolated from each other, though, aren't we?
Yeah, I think that's the important thing. It's like, connection is important to everybody, and it's also important to autistic people, isn't it?
It is. There's this myth there's this myth that we're entirely autonomous.
Yeah.
We're talking a lot about autonomy at the moment in autistic forums and the autistic world, but we don't mean solitude and enforced loneliness. We mean we need to have a little bit more opportunity to make our own decisions.
Yeah, absolutely.
And do what you said earlier, which is find a world that fits, adapt your world to yourself, have the autonomy to be able to adapt the world to yourself.
Absolutely. I'm going to say that this is a very painful thing, but you know, one of the problems I most often encounter working with autistic people one-to-one, especially older autistic people, but it can occur across the board, is that sense of, you know, deep loneliness and isolation. And to the point that people have said to me, well, I don't see the point of being alive anymore. The most common reasons I think I've come across for people feeling suicidal in the autism community when I'm doing that work is that sort of sense of lack of connection and feeling of there's no point to their lives. So they don't have people around them.
So for anybody feeling like that at the moment that's listening to us anywhere in the world, we want you to reflect and we want you to make a connection with somebody around you immediately and reach out. We don't want you to feel these things alone. Absolutely.
And I think that's one of the things is trying to, encourage people to find ways to connect with each other and to create community opportunities. I feel like peer support is incredibly important, and, you know, online communities and the online environments, we sometimes think of social media as being very toxic and people are scared of connecting in that way. But I have found it hugely beneficial, and there are some great spaces online where you can, you know, on various social media platforms and organisations that give people the opportunities to connect with others from their own homes.
I would like you to come back and talk to us about that, because I see you as somebody who knows about this.
Yeah.
Personally, social media, I do find it toxic. We have a very small Facebook page, and the only way I look at Facebook is when it's been moderated by Harry, because he's picked out a few things. He will pick your website and I will only see, but I won't see everything that is on your website. I will only see the one or two posts that he's picked to put on our page. I need a curator.
Yeah.
I don't like the environment. I don't like the advertisements. I don't like the look of it. It's not symmetrical.
Oh, there are many things. There are many things not to be happy about, but I think it's how you use it. And if you are fitting into a normal way of using social media where people are doing I want to swear, but I'm not sure if I'm allowed to.
Yeah, you can do what you like.
Okay. But, you know, the bullshit kind of...
Oh, is that the only swear word you're going to give us?
No, I could give you many more. Could I give you many more? But I was just thinking of that sort of, you know, the kind of bullshit facade of people's lives that's all fake, you know. That's one side of Facebook. But or the other kind of various platforms, a lot of people are moving to platforms like Discord now. So David Gray Hammond is a fantastic autistic author and advocate online. I'm just shouting him out because I'm thinking of him in particular. He's just created a Discord community for autistic folk to talk to each other. And that's very much a platform used by gamers and people involved in that world. But people are moving into those spaces to connect with each other. That can only be a good thing. So for me, you know, if we're isolated, yes, we don't want to go into a toxic world of Facebook or some other platform where we're only looking at how great other people's lives are and then reflecting on how ours may not be. What we want to use it for is to find community spaces and to have community spaces curated by fantastic advocates.
So we will return to social media. You were saying about small steps. You were saying about somebody who is staying mostly inside, and bringing some nature in, and examining it maybe, and looking at it, allowing it to take up their experience.
Nurturing.
And be nurtured by
nurturing, creating and nurturing and having connection with. I think in terms of creating something natural in your life, or just setting, the other thing, if you've got a very small space outside, setting up some bird feeders and sitting out and connecting with the birds that come into your garden.
Yeah.
You know, just really small things like that sometimes.
And you don't have to buy an expensive thing.
No. It's around.
I personally take the very few scraps that I have from cooking, and I just place them on a stone wall.
Yeah.
And then from my window, I can see, well, it's pigeons mostly here, and the odd raven.
Yeah.
And that's an experience that takes me away.
Yeah. That's right.
Just looking at the bird as it flies in and as it flies away. It takes me. Yeah.
So for so many of us, connection with nature and connection with animals is really, really important, isn't it? When I was a child, I was very lucky. I lived in a rural environment, but I used to go down to the river and just hide in the reeds in the riverbed and watch the swans and see the swans' nests. And I used to make things out of natural materials then, actually. Just sort of hiding in that. I don't know if children are allowed to do that now, actually, because it's probably very dangerous to be next to the waterways. But I was probably about 10 or 11. But just hiding in the nature so nobody could quite see me and observing was a really fundamentally important part of my childhood, just watching the birds and the animals around.
You can do it from a car window. You can do it from your own window. You can do it from your bedroom window.
Yeah, exactly.
You don't have to be in a position of danger.
Yeah, exactly. And I think the other thing I just want to bring in, when you were talking about what small things can we do for ourselves, I think that one connection with nature, or connection with the natural environment and animals, and the other thing is, yes, reaching out to connect with people where you can, but safe people in safe environments, like curated autism-led spaces, autistic-led spaces. But also, I'm going to say, as an art therapist, I would say this, wouldn't I? But connecting with the creative aspects of yourself can be so important. And that can be through, creating artworks. So journaling, expressing how you're feeling through written work, poems, drawing, painting, creating clay. Lots of people are creative people in the autistic world. Making music, or just immersing yourself in music as well. So, just really using that as a way of expression and connection. So connecting with the arts, I think, is the other really fundamentally important thing that I find helpful for me, and I think lots of other people can do as well. It's that place where you can express yourself authentically and immerse yourself in that sensory experience of doing it as well.
So we're going to move now to talking with the group, and the group has put down on record some of their own experiences that might follow some of the advices you've been giving today, Brigid. That's my cue into the next part. Okay, so that's the end of our time today, Brigid. It went really fast, didn't it?
Yeah.
You're going to have to come back. What other subjects can we talk to you in the future? Talk to you about in the future? Now you've experienced it, you've just got your voice, and you don't get interrupted. You're allowed to have long form paragraphs, which is what autistic people like to listen to, I believe. There's none of this constantly being interrupted from your flow. We don't have to look at each other. So it's a safe space for everyone. It's a conversation. We're all autistic, and it's just about finding a safe space for us.